Hi, welcome to Laid Back Learning and Living. I'm Heather. Today I'm going to show you how I turn a bunch of fridge veggies into a delicious soup. This soup came about when I had not a whole lot in the fridge, but a few random pieces of celery, some carrots, a couple green beans, and I had some kind of a green, and I threw it all in a pot with a little bit of kielbasa. In this case today, I'm going to use a smoked chicken sausage, and it was delicious, and it's become a favorite in our household, and it's super easy to make and versatile. So let's get started. All right, to begin, I'm gonna chop up my onion and get it cooking in our pot. My onion's giving me some problems today. Apparently it's very fresh. All right, here we go. I'm gonna toss all of this. Flip my cutting board because I was a little dirty. All right, so we're just gonna do a quick dice on the onion. And for it, I just use one medium-sized onion. And this is great because the soup will make enough not only for tonight, but then I will stick the leftover portion into a zip top freezer bag and stick it in our freezer. And then on a busy night, all I have to do is pull the soup out and warm it, and we have dinner ready in about 5-10 minutes. And it took absolutely no effort. So these soups are fantastic for being able to prep ahead of time and double up your ingredients. So then the night of, when you have a busy night, you can just pull it out of the freezer. Or if you know ahead of time that it's going to be a busy night, you can pull it out and thaw it the day before and then just throw it directly into the pot. I typically forget and it'll get late and I'm just like, oh no, we need something for dinner. And so I'll just grab it out of the freezer, fill the sink with some water and get it thawed enough to at least get it into a pot and then just warm it through. So I'm just dicing up some celery. And that was about 6 stalks of celery to go along with our medium-sized onion. And then lastly, our carrots for our mirepoix. And you can sub out any vegetables. If your family has somebody who doesn't like celery, by all means, it does not have to be in here. Our kids are pretty well versed in eating most of their veggies. I think the only thing that we found that they still don't like are Brussels sprouts. And I have tried them a million ways, but to no avail. I figure that's okay. If they want to eat everything else, go for it. I try to make my ingredients on the smaller side, that way it cooks quicker. And so when you take a bite of your soup, you can have a few different veggies in that bite. And this soup is definitely heavy on the veggies. So we have some squash, tomatoes, green beans, the carrots, onion, and celery. Okay, peel up our last carrot here. And then we're gonna kind of cut it into pretty even dice. That way everything will cook at about the same rate. Okay, so I'm just gonna line up my carrots and chop off the tops and the ends. I just have a bowl of scraps over here to go to the chickens. And I'm just gonna start chopping As these top ones get bigger, I'm going to cut them in half and then lay them flat so that they're not wiggling around. And this is my oldest daughter's absolute favorite soup. Which is funny because I just looked in the fridge and threw stuff together and it worked great. Throw these onto our plate here, chop off the tops and our ends. Keep your fingers out of the way. And we're gonna go back and start this sauteing on the stove. So we're gonna want our onions to start sweating and get translucent, and just take a little bit of the crunchiness off the carrot and celery. All right, so let's move back. I'm just gonna put a little bit of olive oil into our pan or pot here and turn it on to about a medium heat. And a couple tablespoons of oil, and then slide all of our veggies in. And I like to add in a little bit of salt. It helps the onions cook a little bit quicker and release some of their water. Give everything a quick stir. Okay, and while that starts cooking up, I'm just gonna chop up the last of my veggies here. I have a squash out of the garden that I'd like to use up. So we'll throw him in here and I'm just gonna dice it. With this kind of squash, I'm going to peel it because the skin's a little bit thicker. But if you're using zucchini or a yellow squash with a nice thin skin, just dice it up and throw it in there. And this squash came from my mom, so that was super special that she grew it and then gave it to me because my patty pan squash did not come up. So we've been swapping veggies back and forth. Looks good. I'm gonna chop off the stem end here and then the bottom. Make it a little more stable. And then I'm just gonna dice this. I'm not gonna put the squash in until towards the end of the cooking time. Otherwise it'll turn mushy. So we're gonna get all of our veggies that are crunchier in first, and then I'll add in the more delicate veggies at the end. All right, good to go. And then I'm just gonna use the plate that I already put my carrots and onion and celery onto and put my other veggies that are gonna be ready to go. So I have the last little bit of our green beans, and I'm just gonna try to stack them up so I can easily chop off the ends and hopefully not lose too much of it. So make it into a nice little neat bundle and get all the ends together and then cut off the last little bit. So on my green beans, I'm gonna cut them. If it was a larger one, I'll cut it into thirds, and the smaller ones, I'll just cut in half. Again, that way when you're taking a bite of the soup, it's a manageable bite and you can get a little bit of all the veggies in there. Get back here. So a lot of the flavor in this soup comes from the sausage that we'll add in. The first time that I made this, I had a package of turkey kielbasa and ended up putting that in, and it adds a really nice smoked flavor into the soup that's really yummy with all the veggies. So today I have a bacon mushroom Swiss cheese sausage that I purchased at Costco, and I really like this one also. I'm going to use our San Marzano tomatoes out of my garden, but I also like to just use a stewed Italian tomato that's canned. Helps to make it super quick, but I happen to have a bunch of tomatoes and I may as well use them while I have them. Grab out my serrated knife, slice it a little bit easier, and we're going to do a dice. I'm going to go back and check on our carrots and onion and celery. Give it a little stir and see how it's doing. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of my seasonings. I like to use an Italian seasoning for this. Getting a little bit of the heat and the oil on it really brings out the flavors in the dried seasoning. You could use fresh if you wanted, but the dried really is a lot easier and you can control the flavors a little bit better. I'm going to keep all of the seeds and juice and everything in these. These are pretty meaty tomatoes. And if you were using canned tomatoes, you would want to keep all the liquid in it and just dump it in. It gives the soup a really pretty blush tone to the broth. Okay, let's go check on our pot. All right. And since that only needs a couple more minutes, I'm going to move my tomatoes off to the side and we'll cut the sausage. So I have a package that I opened the other night when we did a quick sheet pan dinner with a bunch of veggies and a little bit of sausage. So I'm going to use those ones up and I'm going to slice them in half. I'm not going to worry about removing the casing. And these are just Adele's bacon, mushroom, and Swiss cheese smoked chicken sausage that I purchased at Costco. Our onions are looking nice and clear. So we are ready to add in, I'm going to add in some seasonings. About 2 teaspoons or so, maybe a little more depending on how much I'm making. Looks like probably needed about 3 teaspoons or a tablespoon there. Add in a little bit of pepper. I can already smell the herbs coming back to life. All right, and then I have some homemade chicken stock. Okay, a little crazy. All right, so I had some homemade chicken stock that I threw in there. I love saving chicken bones from whenever we have a whole chicken after it's been parted out, and I'll just stick the chicken bones into a 2-gallon freezer bag and then just stick it into the freezer and continue to add to it. That way, once I have enough, I'll just throw it all in a big stock pot with some onions and carrot and celery and then just let it cook. And it's then super awesome for being able to just grab out and use. You could can it. I just put it into glass jars that are freezer safe and just put it out in our freezer so I can pull out a jar whenever we need it for a recipe. All right, so we turned up the heat on the stove up to high. We want to bring that up to a boil, and then we're going to throw in some of our other veggies and our meat. And At the same time now I'm gonna go turn on my pot for the pasta that can go in it. This soup doesn't have to have pasta, so if you're gluten-free, you can by all means just omit it. I don't like to put my pasta into the soup because when we end up with those leftovers that I want to stick into the freezer, I don't want the pasta to get overdone. I like to have it still al dente. So I just cook the pasta on the side and then I'll throw some noodles into a bowl and then ladle the soup on top. So it keeps the pasta really nice and al dente, and then I don't have the pasta that turns all mushy, and we're able to use that soup again from the freezer. We're just gonna wait for our big pot of soup to come up to a boil, and then we're gonna add in the chicken and our green beans, let that cook for a few minutes, and then we'll add in the squash and the tomatoes, let it cook for maybe another 5 to 8 minutes, and give it a try and test it for seasonings, and it's pretty much done. So it looks like our vegetables are just up to a boil, and I'm gonna add in the sausage. I can see I'm gonna want a little more liquid to this, so I'm just gonna add in some water. And I love this Better Than Bouillon organic chicken base. So we'll probably put in a healthy tablespoon. This is great to keep on hand for making sauces or a quick stock or something where you want a little bit of the chicken flavor, but you don't have homemade stock on hand, or maybe you don't need an entire box of chicken stock. You just need a little bit. It's super quick and has great flavor. We still have it on high, so it can cook away. I'm gonna slice up some bread here to have with our soup. All right, so it's just about back up to a boil again. Now I'm gonna add in the green beans, since those are gonna take a little bit longer to cook. These ones are really thin, so they'll cook a little bit quicker than if you were using a large standard green bean. And grab our tomatoes. We want them to kind of start imparting their flavor in. All right, so we're just gonna let everything cook up for probably about 5 to 8 minutes, and then I'll throw in the squash. The squash only needs maybe 3 minutes to cook since it's already diced, and squash is a delicate vegetable anyways. And we wanna have our veggies nice and al dente and not overcooked. So we'll add that in and then get our pasta cooking in some salted water, and everything should be finished up here real quick. All right, I think this is almost up to a boil. He doesn't want to open. Scissors. All right, so I just have a vegetable radiator pasta, but you could use any pasta. I like the smaller one since you have so many other things going on in the soup. And so I'm just gonna dump it into some salted water. Our pot's back up to a boil, so I'm gonna turn that down a little and let it simmer. And turn down our heat a little. I'm only gonna do about half the package because we're just gonna have it for one night of soup, and then I'll save it for that other night when I need that quick and easy meal. All right, and it looks like we're ready to throw in the squash here. So I'll add that. Let those cook. I like to have our soup on the heartier side. That way I know that everybody's stomachs are getting filled with lots of veggies and not just the broth. Otherwise, everybody will be hungry again in about 20 minutes. So if I'm cooking, I want to make it worthwhile and make sure that everybody's good and full by the time we're done. There you have it. Have a delicious, hearty bowl of soup that's super easy to make. It only took maybe about 30 minutes to make, and this meal is going to feed us for our family of 6 not only tonight, but then I will put any remaining leftovers once they've cooled off into a zip top bag and stick it in the freezer, and then be able to pull it out on a busy night, and we have a delicious hearty soup in just a matter of minutes. So I hope you're able to find some of this helpful and you enjoy this recipe. Like I said, it's a family favorite and we absolutely love it. The kids look forward to it every time that I make it in the fall. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any future content, and I'll catch you next time. Homemade, you're missing an M.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Don't look at it.
Homemade.
Stop it.
Good thing you're not educating the kids.